Hello guys, welcome back to the Cocktail Podcast. Today, your portal to the enchanting world of wine discovery. Today we embark on a captivating journey into the intricacies of wine bottle labels. Settle in as we delve deep into the art of understanding a wine label, unveiling the nuanced influences of geography, grape varietals, and vintage on the beloved liquid that we cherish. At the heart of every wine label lies a rich tapestry of history, tradition, and of terroir, a term that encapsulates the unique combination of climate, soil, and location of where the grapes are grown. Now, if you picture yourself wandering through the picturesque vineyards of renowned wine regions, from the sun-soaked hills of Italy's Tuscany to the misty valleys of Germany's Mosel, here, amidst the vines swaying gently in the breeze, nature's elements in work to shape the character and quality of the grapes, you'll end up noticing a few things. So, firstly, it's fascinating to note that a region often dictates what a blend of wine varietals will be. So, much like a conductor organising a symphony, in Bordeaux, for example, winemakers tend to craft blends using Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Cabernet Franc, and Petit Verdot. Each grape kind of contributes its own unique characteristics in the final composition, and winemakers will try and get this blend perfect in order to encapsulate what they think is a perfect blend. Similarly, in the Rhone Valley, Grenache, Syrah, and Mourvedre dance harmoniously in the iconic blends of Châteauneuf-du-Pape, showcasing the region's terroir and winemaking tradition. Talking about terroir, climate, the first protagonist in our story, leaves such a massive mark on the grapes. It influences the ripening process and the flavour development. In cooler climate areas, and with a lot of rainfall, such as the hills of Burgundy, grapes tend to retain their acidity and their delicate aromas a bit more. So this tends to be wines of much greater elegance and finesse. Whereas in sun-drenched locations such as California's Napa Valley, they have such intense heat and abundant sunshine, it kind of coaxes the grape in order to ripen fully and develop loads of sugars within it. And this infuses the wine with bold fruit flavours and quite a lot of tannins within it. So each sip reflects the sun-kissed essence of its terroir, a testament to the power of climate in shaping wine's character. But let's not overlook the unsung hero beneath our feet, the soil, an essential component of terroir that impacts its distinctive fingerprint on the wine. From the gravelly banks of Bordeaux to the volcanic slopes of Santorini, the soil composition influences the wine's root composition, nutrient uptake, and water retention, contributing to the wine's texture, minerality, and overall expression. The reason the soil is so important is essentially the harder the plant has to work in order to break through the soil, in order to spread its roots, the better the fruit will be. And so different grape varieties have their different soil preferences. Much like a connoisseur kind of chooses the right brush for a masterpiece. For instance, Pinot Noir thrives in more limestone-rich soils, whereas delicate roots can dive deep, extracting essential minerals that impart some opulence and elegance to the wine. Whereas Cabernet Sauvignon, for example, because it's a little bit more robust, finds solace in more well-drained, gravelly soils, allowing it to develop more intense flavours and more kind of structured tannins than other wines. Riesling, on the other hand, seeks out slate or shale soils, so there's tend to be those in the mountains, which is why French Alsace wine, German Mosel wine, or even Austrian kind of mountainousy regions tend to have a lot more slate and tend to grow those. And this allows the roots to access moisture while maintaining the acidity that is crucial to its character. Now, each varietal, whether it be the robust Cabernet Sauvignon, The ethereal Pinot Noir with zesty Riesling brings its unique personality and flavour profile to the blend, adding depth and complexity to the final wine. Now, Cabernet Sauvignon is often referred to as the king of red grapes. It's celebrated for its very bold tannins, those are the textured drying of your mouth, dark fruit flavours, and hints of spice. Now, this originates from Bordeaux, and it thrives in regions like Napa Valley. However, you can get two different expressions in this. A French Cabernet Sauvignon would be very different from Californian Cabernet Sauvignon. Not only do you get to taste the difference within soil and the difference between the vinification process between California and France, you also get to see the difference in climate. So the cold climate versus the warm climate will impact the wine massively. Pinot Noir, on the other hand, is the epitome of finesse and elegance. So this is mainly from the Burgundy region, and it's quite a delicate grape. It has more of like a silky texture, more gentle tannins, vibrant acidity, and almost nuanced notes of earthiness. This is all to say, when you're looking at a wine label, you'll end up finding regions. Now, these regions might not mean anything to you. If I came up to you and asked you in the street, great, cool, this wine is from Alsace, what does that tell you? No idea, right? I mean, you may do, but when I started learning about wine, I certainly didn't. So it's daunting to go into a shop, daunting to go into a place where you have no idea what the wine label is saying and what it means. So ask the person in the store, feel free to ask questions. But essentially, what I'm going to teach you, they will have the region. Region will usually tell you the style of wine, whether it's cold climate, whether it's warm climate. This will impact not only how the wine will taste, but what kind of notes come out of it. And then you have a grape variety or a blend that's often stated. These blends can either be associated with the region, like in Bordeaux. You can have certain areas that are associated with more of a Cabernet Sauvignon blend or more of a Merlot blend. And by them saying Saint-Emilion, Pauillac, Pomerol, all of those would be kind of areas that are attributed with certain types of blends. Now, something also you'll see as you travel through the wine shop will be vintages. Now, this will just be a date written on the bottle, and people go through this massive thing of vintage, and it's something that's often discussed quite a lot in wine. And initially I was like, what is vintage? It is just the year. It's just the year that wine was made. Now, it is quite a crucial chapter in the whole wine story, because essentially it captures the essence of the specific growing season. For example, a warm, dry summer may yield more opulent wines, bursting with more ripe fruit flavours, whereas a cool, wet vintage might produce wines of restraint and elegance and slightly more nuanced flavours that reflect like the challenges and the triumphs over the year. So what other things could you find? So you have region, potential grape varieties, vintage, ABV. Sometimes that includes tasting notes as well. So those are quite useful. They expect the wine to taste and what to pair it with. So that's often quite a good indication if you're not certain on what a wine will be. The difficulty is that if it becomes a blend within a region, some places don't put their blend on. So in which you're looking at a red wine, we have no idea what could be in it. Now that's something difficult. In which case, have a little look, have a little Google. I mean, nobody's expecting you to be an absolute connoisseur from the top of your head. There's some apps you can use. Just feel free to look it up online, look through several websites, anything that kind of catches your interest in your eye. But this is something for you to have a little look through your wine shop and not feel completely intimidated with it. Interestingly as well, a lot of French wine will have the Chateau written on it. Now, the Chateau, really, really difficult to say whether it means anything. I mean, I've been drinking a lot of wine and I can tell you a cup of Chateaus that mean something, but the rest I still don't know. The Chateau is essentially there just for them to be a brand on it, for them to know it's this specific Chateau, so it's that type of branding, that type of quality that you know is on the wine. Now, how do you know from a wine label whether wine is a good quality? Now, this is a really difficult one, because essentially there's so much wine and there's so much different types of wine out there that it's difficult to say straight away the one wine is going to be better than the other. And I know that's not the answer you want, but essentially it all depends on personal preference. So, for example, I tend to prefer more old world, hot climate reds, whereas someone else could like really light bodied, cold climate new worlds. For example, there was what was it? It was a Syrah from Chile, which was quite an interesting one that I saw the other day because Syrah and Shiraz are the same grape variety. However, in Northern Hemisphere it's called Syrah, in the Southern Hemisphere it's called Shiraz. And I was interested to see a Syrah from Chile, so I thought it was a mistake, and turns out it was because the vineyard produced it so high up in the mountains, it almost replicated a cold, old world climate. So therefore it was more of a Syrah expression than it was a Shiraz, despite it being from Chile and having the access to the sun and also the soil. So that was a really interesting one. So yeah, ultimately you're not able to tell straight away. I did hear, actually, that there was this idea floating around that the deeper the punt, the indentation on the bottom of the bottle, like the deeper that is, the more fancy the wine should be. However, it's not actually the case. So the reason bottles had deeper punts was almost like an artifact. It was an artifact of a certain style of wine that I can't remember off the top of my head. And when you have a deeper punt, you need thicker glass. And so a lot with sparkling wine, they tend to have deeper punts because they need to have a thicker glass as well. And this specific style of wine had thicker glass with it. So I think because that specific style of wine or from that region became really, really popular, people associated a deeper punch with having more quality with it. However, this is not the case. For example, I think every single Riesling just has basically no punch at all. So don't go thinking that you can go into Tesco's and stick your thumb up the bottom of every single wine bottle and see whether it's good value or not. It's not going to get you very far, and you're probably going to get some very, very weird looks. So that brings us to the conclusion of today's episode on the Top Cocktail Podcast. I hope you find our episode of our wine label deciphering both enlightening and enriching. Join us from the next time as we continue through the journey of alcohol and uncovering stories that lie beneath every single bottle. We'll catch you in the next one. Cheers. Bye-bye.